So on this channel, we regularly review and dissect gangster movies and TV shows. Usually they are about your Italian-American classics, Goodfellas, The Godfather, The Sopranos and the like, and occasionally we venture out to other kinds of shows, like the British production Peaky Blinders. I have intended to branch out to take a look at international gangster features. Subscribers often tell me to watch things like the Mexican Blood In, Blood Out or the Italian Mafia series Gomorrah. We'll get to it one day, I hope. And there have been a few I've done. Channel members, for example, will be able to see a review I did of an excellent South American mafia film called Birds of Passage. I have an interesting relationship with Indian cinema. I've actually seen quite a few films, and my feelings are similar to Hollywood. Many movies from back in the day, like Sholay from the 70s, are excellent, but many mainstream outputs in recent decades have proven to be cookie clutter films, especially the gangster movies, which often feel like cringe-inducing parodies. However, there have been a few which carry heavy reputations, and this one in particular, which caught my attention, even had the stamp of approval from the king of gangster films himself, Martin Scorsese. Gangs of Wasseypur is a 2012 gangster epic directed by Anurag Kashyap, chronicling a sprawling family saga based on true events that last almost 70 years, the plot taking place from 1941 to 2009. It is seriously one of the most ambitious gangster films I've ever seen. The sheer scope of the story and the amount of primary characters is staggering. The movie primarily concerns a single family over 3 generations and their involvement in both the underworld and the world of politics. The backdrop often involves a changing Indian landscape. The country gained independence, for example, in 1947, a few years after when the film is first set. The film has widespread critical acclaim and was hugely influential for Indian cinema, being praised for its dark humour, its experimental soundtrack and its raw filmmaking style, a departure from modern Bollywood. Although funnily enough, when it first came out, it apparently didn't do too well and it took time for it to become a cult classic. The opening scene is a 5-minute or so long take. We start with what looks like a cheesy sitcom of some sort, with the camera moving out to reveal it's a show being watched at night by some guys in a local shop after hours. Suddenly, bullets are fired, bringing an end to the evening's entertainment. We whip pan to a duo with AKs on the hunt, weaving in and out of the town's narrow alleyways and corridors, joining up with the rest of their party. The filmmaker's acute eye for blocking and framing is on display with a shot like this, and then this group fires a flurry of bullets and grenades at this house, which clearly has fortified protection of some sort. A family huddles inside, hiding. What's the context? Is this the family of some evil don? What did they do to deserve such a vicious attack, where the mob leader openly tells his men to kill the women and children as well? Are the attackers taking revenge for having been wronged, or are they simply themselves preying on this innocent family? Who knows? The mob leaves thinking they've killed everybody, the leader phoning up what appears to be his boss to tell him the job is done, but the boss double crosses him and the gang are thwarted by a police checkpoint and they open fire. Cue the title credits, and the film has a lot of time to generate the context of this scene. 5.5 hours to be more precise. Yup, I know Indian movies tend to be pretty long, but this one is a mammoth undertaking. Of course, you may say that Gangs of Wasseypur is 2 films, a part 1 and a part 2, each around 2 hours and 40 minutes long, but from what I understand, the director initially envisaged the movie as one big thing, but Indian cinemas would not play a film that's got a 5-hour runtime, so he split them, with Gangs of Wasseypur being able to be seen as 2 separate films or one big movie, but it was initially screened at the Cannes Film Festival as a single film. So before we get into what I think of the film, let me tell you what it's about. I'm going to attempt to explain in brief the overall gist of the story. This summary will contain spoilers. Strap in. The movie begins with some really interesting historical and cultural backdrop to this conflict which will last for 3 generations. During the British Raj, Wasseypur was located in the Bengal region. After India gained independence, Wasseypur was redistricted into the state of Bihar. About 50 years later, in the year 2000, the land would be redistricted again to the new state of Jharkhand, where it is still today. The village of Wasseypur is dominated by a caste of Muslim butchers known as the Qureshis, who the other Muslims fear. The British Raj and their coal mining business is disrupted by the train robberies of the mysterious Sultana Qureshi, who gains local cult hero status for robbing the British. A non-Qureshi village member, Shahid Khan, our first protagonist in the film, impersonates the robber Sultana, robs trains of their food, and then begins selling in the local village, undercutting the costs that others sell them at, raising his station. When the Qureshi clan find out what he's been doing, however, they ambush one of his raids, killing his crew, and after a sit-down with the village elders, Shahid Khan and his family are banished from the town, settling in the neighbouring town. He works in a coal mine, and during this time his wife dies during childbirth. Shahid is furious and kills the coal mine's muscle man who had not allowed him to leave to see his wife that day. Khan catches the attention of Ramadir Singh, an industrialist recently gaining control over several coal mines after India's independence, who hires Khan as his muscle man to keep the local workers in line. Ramadir learns that Shahid plans to take over from him, so he decides to have him and even his son, a child, assassinated. Shockingly, this guy who I thought was going to be the main character is killed like half an hour into the movie, but Shahid's cousin flees with the kid. That's the first section of the movie. Shahid's Khan, Sardar, grows up, learns the truth and vows revenge against Ramadir. Sardar begins hijacking Ramadir's coal trucks in the 70s, Ramadir having gained a ruthless reputation in Dhanbad, which is where everybody lives now, after murdering a rival. Sardar even goes to work for Ramadir's son, as they're not aware of who he really is and what his intentions are, though eventually things come out in the open and the two groups have several skirmishes. Sardar is also like some kind of sex maniac. He has a missus but sleeps around, and he marries a second wife, causing a rift in the relationship with his first, as he doesn't come home for months on end, maybe even years if I got it right. But later, Sardar ends up neglecting his second wife and the kid that he has with her, reconciling with his first wife. As he has a high rep, given him going toe-to-toe with Ramadir, Sardar is approached by local villagers for aid against the oppressive Qureshi butchers. Remember them? They're still around, and Sardar launches bomb attacks against their stores and houses, taking and gaining territory and business, his family gaining a reputation now greater than the butchers. Sultan Qureshi, a key member of the Qureshi family, is approached by Ramadir to unite against their common enemy Sardar. By this time, the 90s, Sardar's sons have grown up. Danish is in the family business, but the second son, Faisal, is a stoner and considered a loser. He's also influenced by Bollywood movies and starts dressing and behaving like he's a Bollywood character. Though the two families are at odds and constantly warring, there is an uneasy alliance of sorts as Danish marries Sultan Qureshi's sister, much to his dismay. You still following? In a segment straight out of Coppola's The Godfather, the stoner Faisal is asleep when he should be travelling with his father, and a friend of Faisal's, secretly working with the Qureshis, tells them that Sardar will be travelling alone. At a petrol pump, Sardar is ambushed and ridden with bullets. Bizarrely, he gets up after the attackers have fled, groggy but still alive, seemingly too angry to die and intent on getting his revenge, and so ends the first movie. The second one opens with a shock for me. I thought we would be seeing Sardar plan his long and deliberate revenge, going on a rampage, but in what is one of many instances of subverting the trends of Bollywood, it turns out that Sardar did in fact die right there at the petrol pump. His son Danish takes over the family and plots his revenge, but stunningly, he is also killed by Sultan Qureshi, leaving the stoner Faisal, the family's Fredo Corleone, to run the family. Faisal's considered a bum, but the guy ends up scaring the daylights out of everybody by viciously killing his friend who betrayed the Khans, slicing his throat like a goat and beheading the guy. What a scene that was. The next chunk of the film involves a lot of little plots and a lot of characters, including a truce between Faisal and Ramadir, meaning the Qureshis lose their key support. Definite becomes a key player. That's actually his name, Definite, Faisal's half-brother. This is the son from the second wife of Sardar, remember? He becomes a competent underling of Faisal, a deadly and fearless assassin, but at the same time, Ramadir gave his mother money when she was being neglected by Sardar. So who is Definite really loyal to? Long story short, there's more betrayals, killings and schemings, the Qureshis come back into it and the violence becomes chaotic, mothers and sisters being taken out as well. So I hope you followed all of that. The scope of the movie is really something else. Towards the last hour and a half, it feels like the movie is intentionally throwing more characters in your face to wind you up. By the time you've finished, Shahid Khan seems like a distant memory. There's a lot more violence and chaos, perhaps a commentary that the modern generation of criminals lack the honour that the first generation had, a generation that would steal rice from trains to make a living. You can kind of see where the older guys are coming from, even when they have men killed, but by the time guys like Perpendicular and Definite roll around, you've got downright sociopaths. Even their names are cartoonishly over the top. Of course, it's difficult to evaluate Gangs of Wasseypur against other Indian gangster films of its time because I haven't seen many of them, and I'm pretty sure the ones I have seen aren't considered the best the industry has to offer. But even just on its own, the film is a remarkable achievement, a thrilling journey, captivating and intense, but at the same time very down to earth, very human. You spend a lot of time with these characters in times of violence, in their more quiet times, in weddings and funerals the family has. There's a real sense of knowing who they are. And it feels very real. I've been to this part of the world several times, and I think Gangs nails the aesthetics, the culture, the vibe, and the feel of the environment and the people. Not to mention, many scenes were filmed guerrilla style, with actual people in the background instead of extras, which obviously helps. I've encountered thugs and gang members, and just like in the movie, they really do look like random uncles, some bald, some fat, some ambling around in their slippers, and others with scraggly beards. I suppose it's the same as Italian Americans saying real mobsters tend to look more like people in The Sopranos and not Hollywood stars like Paul Newman and James Caan. I've seen the movie called a dark comedy on places like IMDb. I don't really feel that. I don't get where it's coming from. I mean, yes, it's very funny in places, but I chalk a lot of that up to being typical mob humour. There's one scene, for example, where they need to get a guy to a hospital and everyone's scrambling around looking for the key to the tuk-tuk, and Sardar shouts something like, "Whose ass is keeping the key warm?" Everyone's running around screaming and accusing each other, and it turns out that Sardar had the key the whole time. But the way the scene plays out, the humour included, it feels really organic, and it's like it's just happening, as the best mob films do. Maybe the dark humour referenced is things like stone cold gangsters walking around committing murders in their slippers. There was one scene I remember where a duo commit a store robbery, and before running away they argue for a bit about one of them putting the other's slippers on. But again, this honestly feels so true to life for where this film is set. There's a scene where a boy and a girl are talking all romantic with each other, and a goat wanders into the shot behind them and starts munching on the bush. And it's really funny. It feels unintentional. Like, they may have released that goat in that time on purpose, but you can't exactly force the goat to eat at that perfect spot unless they shot this 20 times or something. It's just something that feels real, one of many appreciated details. It can be said though that almost in a Scorsese-like way, Tarantino-esque maybe, that the situations characters get into are absurd and comical. A chase to the death, for example, where an overweight gangster's motorbike stops working and he has to use his chubby legs to propel it. But the characters themselves, more often than not, are earnest and they are in the moment. They are not in on the joke. So you get that duality of real life stakes and drama mixed in with humour. There's a banality and mundaneness about extraordinary events, like one part where a character's been told that his father's been shot and he jumps to his feet and down the stairs to rally the posse, only to quickly come back upstairs as he's remembered he's forgotten to put on his shoes. And then there's scenes where the movie makes no effort to make you laugh and instead deals some pretty horrific murder scenes that are really well shot. Gangs of Wasseypur is a really well made movie, made with a skilled hand. The passage of time, for example, is well handled, with the movie often using the release of classic Indian films, posters up on walls or characters going to the cinema talking about the latest film stars, in order to mark the passage of time. It's obviously self-referential too in that regard. I remember a scene where Ramadir laments that today's youngsters don't act right because they watch too many Bollywood movies, and the reason he stayed alive so long is because he isn't influenced by movies. The music also changes as the film goes on, using songs and instruments of the time period. The scenes set decades ago are often more muted in colour, with the latter parts of the film more saturated. The actors and the makeup as well is really well done. Characters are aged up slowly as the film progresses. Sometimes new actors play the same character after years have passed, and I hadn't even noticed. I couldn't tell at times if the same actor was playing the character. It's just things like these that tell you the filmmakers were paying attention and they knew what they were doing. Going back to the self-referential nature of some scenes, as gritty as the film is, it dabbles into meta-parody at times. For instance, a female character who's always going to the movies sees a boy she likes and he comes to her house for her hand in marriage, and we then get slow motion shots of her celebrating with music in the background. It's kind of cheesy, but it's the kind of scene you might see in the kind of movies she watches. I thought that was a really interesting touch. So have you seen Gangs of Wasseypur? What did you think of it? And let me know which movie you would like me to review next in the comment section down below. Subscribe to the channel, become a channel member, and thanks for watching.